Hello and welcome. I'm Rawia Alami and this is the Dailies, where we take a look at important news stories, reports, analyses and articles published in newspapers and media outlets across the world. Newspapers continue to focus on the peace efforts to end it, with many opinion articles and analyses dedicated to breaking down the main obstacles. The war on Gaza and the looming Israeli reoccupation of the Gaza city amid civilian starvation also received quite a bit of focus today, while most American newspapers reported on the internal scene, especially in the capital, as the deployed National Guards are ordered to carry their weapons. We'll start with the Washington Post, which examines the competing video narratives shaping perceptions of Washington, D.C. after President Trump declared a crime emergency and ordered federal control of policing. Also, on the one side, of course, the White House and the federal agencies release highly produced videos portraying law enforcement as tough and also triumphant, framing the takeover as a success. In contrast, the residents and creators post love letters to the city, showing cherry blossoms, festivals, and vibrant neighborhoods, often set against Trump's disparaging remarks about D.C. Finally, also bystanders share raw, shaky footage of arrests and federal patrols, highlighting concerns over heavy-handed tactics. The report underscores what these narratives reveal: a battle over D.C.'s image, where the lens, whether official, festive, or critical, dictates the story the public sees. We'll stay with the Washington Post, whose editorial critiques the current push by Western allies to recognize a Palestinian state, arguing that such symbolic gestures undermine rather than advance the path to peace. The article points out that while countries like Britain, France, Canada, and Australia prepare to extend recognition at the UN, the reality on the ground is far harsher. Israelis remain firmly opposed. Hamas continues to fight from Gaza, and new Israeli settlement projects further erode the viability of a two-state solution. The piece also stresses that genuine statehood cannot emerge from symbolism alone, but from conditions-based negotiations, requiring Hamas's removal, security guarantees for Israel, and a credible Palestinian Authority. The editorial concludes that recognition without these steps risks widening divisions instead of moving towards a lasting peace. On the other side of the Atlantic, Matthew Paris wrote in the Times today, delivering a harsh critique of Israel's war in Gaza, arguing that no progress is possible without Benjamin Netanyahu or while Benjamin Netanyahu remains in power. He notes the worsening humanitarian catastrophe, mass civilian deaths, starvation, and blocked aid, and highlights the Commons Foreign Affairs Committee's call for stronger UK action, including halting trade talks and also banning imports linked to illegal settlements. Yet Paris insists such steps remain performative unless paired with a push for political change inside Israel. Drawing also parallels with sanctions on apartheid South Africa, he urges coordinated international pressure to isolate Israel's government while making clear solidarity with ordinary Israelis. The piece concludes that only regime change can end the cycle of destruction and restore hope for peace. The Jerusalem Post published an article by Peled Arbel, who examines Hezbollah's extensive infiltration of Lebanon's military intelligence, revealing a significant security challenge for Israel. The article quotes experts who claim that Hezbollah has placed Shia officers in key leadership positions, effectively controlling intelligence operations and compromising the army's independence. The author cites examples illustrating alleged obstruction of investigations, informed leaks, and coordination with Hezbollah activities, including smuggling and also attacks on Israeli forces. The article highlights that ongoing disarmament efforts south of the Litani River appear influenced by Hezbollah, undermining trust in the Lebanese army. Arbel concludes that decisive action by Lebanon's government is essential to remove compromised officers and safeguard both domestic and regional security. Moving on to the Ukraine war, the Moscow Times in its analysis breaks down the obstacles preventing a direct summit between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The piece highlights that despite U.S. efforts, including proposals from Donald Trump, diplomatic, territorial and security challenges remain. Zelensky is willing to meet only with guaranteed security assurances, while Moscow emphasizes meticulous preparation and questions also his legitimacy. Now, the analysis also goes on to say that territorial disputes over Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, and other regions further complicate negotiations. Also, ongoing Russian offensive and attacks exacerbate tensions, influencing both sides' readiness for talks. The analysis quotes experts who suggest that Russia may be delaying discussions to maintain military leverage. The piece provides a clear overview of the intertwined diplomatic, legal, and battlefield realities that continue to stall meaningful peace efforts between Ukraine and Russia. Another interesting analysis on the subject was published by the New York Times, highlighting how Ukraine's war with Russia continually circles back to the Donbass. The report emphasizes the region's symbolic and strategic weight. President Zelensky frames the Donbass not as negotiable land, but as a place tied to Ukraine's history, also sacrifice and identity, contrasting with President Trump's transactional land swap approach. The piece also quotes analysts who warn that ceding Donbass would undermine Ukraine politically and militarily, though Western-backed security guarantees could reshape also the scene. The piece also underlines why the Donbass remains the pivotal obstacle to peace talks and lasting resolution. Moving on to the Wall Street Journal, which published a report examining how a historic drop in immigration is reshaping the U.S. labor market. It notes that for the first time in decades, net immigration could turn negative due to stricter border enforcement, deportations, and also rising out migration. The report explains that while this slowdown helps keep unemployment low, with rates holding at 4.2%, economists warn it will weaken long-term growth, reduce job creation, and also widen budget deficit. The report includes a chart showing the downward trajectory of immigration in the U.S., which is estimated to drop even further, roughly a 250,000 by the end of the year. The piece also uses striking visuals, like also farm workers in California's strawberry fields and landscapers at work, to highlight immigrant-heavy sectors most at risk. Overall, the piece makes clear that short-term stability masks deep structural risks for the U.S. economy. Galip Dalai and Dino Patti Jalal examine in foreign policy why developing countries increasingly resist U.S. pressure to choose between Washington and Beijing. The authors argue that China's engagement with the Global South through infrastructure investment, trade, and multilateral forums offers tangible benefits, while emphasizing non-interference and multipolarity. In contrast, U.S. policies, include tariffs and transactional diplomacy, are seen as coercive and also inconsistent. The piece argues that although China faces challenges such as debt concerns and governance issues in hosting strengthens its influence. The author concludes South prefer a flexible, multi-aligned approach, valuing options over a binary US-China choice, reinforcing China's strategic foothold. Back to the New York Times, where we'll end with this article by Clay Routledge, who examines the surprising rise of historical nostalgia among Gen Z, a generation often defined by digital saturation. Routledge, who's a social psychologist who specializes in nostalgia, surveys how many young adults long for the pre-digital past, embracing vinyl records, photo albums, board games, and physical books. Also, according to Routledge, unlike escapism, this nostalgia is portrayed as constructive. It provides comfort, strengthens focus, and fosters real-world connections. The article emphasizes that nostalgia is not about rejecting modern technology, but about balance, drawing lessons from the analog past to cope with digital stress and shape healthier futures. The piece concludes that Gen Z demonstrates that looking backward may help them build a more grounded and resilient path forward. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.